it's Hailey, and today I'm going to be talking about the romance books that I have read this summer. So I'm going to be doing kind of a three-part summer reading wrap-up because it has been so long since I have talked about the books that I've read, and that's entirely my fault. I'm really sorry about that. But yeah, I have three stacks here, and I kind of divided them by genre or age range, if you will. So this is the first video of that, and then I will have a video about YA books that I've read, and then finally some kind of out of my comfort zone reads that I ended up reading. And mostly actually they're like hyped up books, so I think that's what I'll divide the last one as. But I honestly, like, you'll notice this isn't my usual setup. I'm sitting on the floor, I'm just by my shelves, and I'm also using my just vlogging camera, but honestly I just wanted to film a video. Like, it's been so long since I've actually sat down to film a formal video, and I was just like, sometimes you're lazy, you know. I didn't want to like bring in the filming equipment, all of that. It seemed like a lot of work, so I kept on procrastinating, and I was like, you know what, we're gonna stop procrastinating and we're just gonna sit on the floor, and that's gonna work. So that is what we are doing today. So as much as I haven't been making as many videos as I would have liked to, and kind of took an unexpected hiatus from that, sorry, but I really have been reading a ton. Like, I have so many books to talk about, and on top of that, I actually have so many books in front of me that I need to do a haul for. So that's definitely like my next step for filming. But I have this really great stack of books right here. These are all the romances that I've read, and I feel like these, like, the thing is, some of the books in my out of my comfort zone hyped book stack, they could also be considered romances, but I'm just gonna keep them where they are. Sometimes, you know, that line is blurred a little bit. So yeah, if you guys were interested in hearing any of my thoughts on any of these books right here, I will be talking about them spoiler free, so don't worry if you haven't read them yet. And I will also have timestamps in the description box down below. No particular order here, but the first book that I have to talk about is How to Fake It in Hollywood by Ava Wilder. I saw this cover and I thought it looked really cute, and I was kind of trying to find some new romances for my shelves. Like, one thing that I've done this summer is I was kind of like, I can read whatever I want. Rather than trying to focus on YA, I was like, no, I think I can branch out past that. So I started reading a lot of out of my comfort zone things, and also romances. And I started looking for romances that weren't just like the heavy hitters and popular ones, but ones that had tropes that I really enjoy. And a trope that I really like is fake dating. So this is obviously a fake dating story, and it is set in Hollywood. I read this when I was in California. Like, I wasn't in Hollywood, I was in Northern California visiting my sister, but I was like, I should read something California while I'm here since it's been so long. But this is about a girl who's like up and coming. She's trying to make it in Hollywood, and then the guy is actually like really famous, so he's really well known, and they end up setting up this publicity thing because one of his best friends died, and since then he's kind of been going on a bender. Like, he's really been struggling. So they set up this publicity agreement where the two of them are going to fake date, and it's going to obviously help to lift her career, but it's also going to help him to appear like he's more settled. I actually ended up enjoying this one a lot more than I thought I would, and it's not that I thought it was going to be bad. Like, I wouldn't pick it up if I thought it was going to be bad, but I just hadn't really heard all that much about it, so I didn't exactly know what to expect. But it was definitely a pleasant surprise. Like, it wasn't just a cute romance, although it was for me. Like, I really believed the chemistry between the two characters, and I'm such a sucker for fake dating that I just felt the tension from the beginning, and I really enjoyed that. But it also had like a more intense element to it as well, because you're really looking into, I can't remember his name, Ethan. You're really looking into Ethan and like what he's been through, like how grief has affected him and how he's moving beyond that. So he's divorced, he has kids and everything, and he's trying not to let his kids like see him fall apart, but he's also trying to piece his life back together again. And it just was really like well examined, and I felt like there was a very good balance between those more romantic and enjoyable parts and those parts that maybe are a little bit more difficult to read, but I felt like they were still very well done. I think this book definitely excelled in the tension as well. There was like so much sexual tension and amazing banter between the characters, and it just completely sucked me in. Like, I felt for Gray because that's the main female character's name. She's going through a lot because, like, being a female in Hollywood, she's constantly typecast in these certain roles, and she's just really struggling to be taken seriously, especially because her big breakout role was something that maybe wouldn't necessarily be taken seriously. And I felt like that kind of examination was really well done as well. I just felt like this hit a lot of levels, and I really liked it, honestly. I haven't heard all that much about it, but I think it was a very solid and quick read. One of the things that has thrown me off this summer is I had a very bad ear infection in this year, but now I have it in this year, so it's really weird to be like talking and filming and I can't really hear out of this ear. It's a very strange experience that I'm having. The next book that I wanted to talk about though is The Layover by Waldon. So this conversely is not a trope that I really enjoy. I know everyone loves enemies to lovers, but it's not my favorite. Hate to love enemies to lovers, it's just not really my thing. But that said, like there are obviously some books that feature that trope that I have really liked, and this one actually was one of those. So this follows a flight attendant, and she is going on like this last trip. She's engaged to this guy, and she promised him that she's going to settle down because he doesn't want like to be traveling all the time. Like he just wants her to be in one spot all the time. Like how are they going to raise a family if she's always all over the place? So she agrees to that, and she like obviously they're engaged, so she agreed to that. But she's going on this last trip, which has a 24-hour layover in Bali. So she's going to like enjoy this last amazing layover. But of course, things end up getting delayed, and she also ends up being paired with one of the other male flight attendants who she has never gotten along with. Like he steals her parking spot and stuff. There was something with her ex, just all of these dramatic things. So she really doesn't like him, but they are trapped together, obviously. So we have that kind of forced proximity thing. I, once again, didn't know what to expect from this one, but I really enjoyed it. I love going into books, like that's why I love doing book hauls, but I kind of hate doing it as well, because I don't want to read the synopsis or something and then I have this like expectation of what the book is going to be, and then it's not actually that. But this one, I knew the general idea of the story, I knew the gist of it, but from there I was just like really pleasantly surprised. I actually had physically started reading this, but then I ended up listening to the audiobook, and I really enjoyed the audio. I thought it was very dynamic. Like I was kind of shelving my previous book haul while listening to that audiobook actually, and I just had a lot of fun with it. It definitely was the kind of tropical escapist read that I was needing. It's one that I think if you liked The Unhoneymooners, you definitely should try this one out because you would probably really like it. And I also think if you're going on a trip, this is a great book to read because like it's about a flight attendant. So that's a lot of fun. And I feel like it was one that as I was trying to find what I was going to read on my flight to California, I was like, I wish I hadn't read it yet because while I was on the plane, I was like, this would be perfect. But it is a really solid read. I enjoyed the enemies to lovers. I think it had like a nice balance of enemies and then the lovers portion, and it also was just a really transformative period for the main character and her kind of figuring out what she actually wanted in life, because she was going off of everyone else's expectations but really comes to learn what she actually wants. And obviously the setting of Bali was incredible. Like I really enjoyed that. So yeah, I think this was a great read and definitely once again one that I would recommend. Next is Set on You by Amy Lea. This is probably the only book from this list that I didn't really like. This one definitely disappointed me, and I'm so sad because I had really been excited for it. So one of my hobbies other than reading is that I love going to the gym. I love working out. I love weightlifting. And this book is about a plus-sized fitness influencer. She's very body positive and obviously like she loves the gym as a fitness influencer, but she has an enemies to lovers romance with this guy who like steals her squat rack. He is this firefighter and she has all her stuff at the squat rack and then goes to like, I don't know, get a drink of water or something, and then she comes back and he's there using it and she's like, oh, my stuff was here, and he just like completely ignores her and like tells her to go to the other one. I would be so mad because it's just like the audacity. Like no, like it's not like she just decided it was her squat rack. She had all her stuff there and literally went to go and get a drink of water. That's acceptable. That was hers. I know maybe other people might not get it, but like that for me, it's so frustrating. And that's why I don't like enemies to lovers, because if someone ever did that to me, they would just be Dent to me. There was no other option. I felt like this book though had a lot of like matters of convenience, like the way that they kept on running into each other. I was kind of like, this is dumb. I can't really believe it. And I felt like the main character could be kind of judgmental at times, which was frustrating for her being this like body positive person. I found that to be kind of annoying. She could be hypocritical, and I didn't enjoy their enemies storyline. Like, I don't know, it didn't do anything for me, to be entirely honest, and I'm really sad about it because there were a lot of things that I felt like I would have enjoyed from this one. But Instead, I just found it to be really frustrating, and I didn't really care for any of the characters or anything like that. And, you know, from there, if I can't care for the characters, it's just kind of like, it's whatever. So yeah, this was pretty forgettable for me, to be honest. I think like maybe if you enjoy going to the gym, you could try it, but like, I think there's other books that have done the enemies to lovers, hate to love sort of thing better. Next is The Beach Trap by Brady. And this is kind of one where I wasn't sure if it should go in the romance list or in the other list that I have, but I decided to keep it here. Although I would say that the romance isn't really the main plot line of this book, but that wasn't to its detriment. Like, that's something that I really enjoyed about it. So the main relationships that you're focusing on are sisters. They're actually half sisters. And in the beginning, it's like 1 or 2 chapters where they're at camp years and years and years ago, and they become best friends over this. I don't know how long they were at camp, but it must have been a really long time because they kept on calling each other best friends. But they were at camp, had this great relationship, and then they end up finding out that they actually have the same father. So the one sister, I'm gonna have to give them names because it's gonna be too confusing. Okay, so Kat, she is the one who, she was like living with their father, and then she finds out that Blake is like this secret family that has been hidden away. And then Kat thinks that Blake was just at camp and like using her to try and learn about their father. Like, she knew, but she actually didn't. But yeah, anyways, they end up years later when their father dies, he leaves them this beach house that is like in complete disrepair, but Kat has all these memories with it. Blake wants to sell it because she's needing the money, so then they have to team up to like work on it together and fix it up. So there obviously is like a romance plotline for both of the characters, and that was fine. Like, I liked it, but honestly, the sister relationship was really what I was enjoying. And I will say, I know that like, maybe I just don't know camp. I went to like, camp is really expensive, right? So I went to a week-long gymnastics camp once, and it wasn't like a sleepaway camp or whatever. It was just like a day thing. So I remember the girl that I met there, we got along. It was great, but like, it's not like I was like, oh, we're best friends forever. And they were kind of acting like they were like absolute best friends forever. Like, they had known each other for years, like whatever. So that kind of was just like a nitpicky thing for me, but I did see kind of the heartbreak there, and I did see how their relationship was needing repair. And I think having the setting of the beach house be where they're doing that, especially because it's kind of like a hot topic house, since it represents for Kat all these memories that she had with her family, but for Blake it represents everything that she missed out on. I felt like it was a really like interesting setting for them to kind of try and reconnect over. I think that the characters of Kat and Blake, like, they were very distinct characters. So the reason I was getting them mixed up, it's just because at the beginning I thought that I feel like their names don't fit their characters. I would have flipped them, but that's just like my own brain. Like, they definitely were really distinct perspectives to be reading from, which was great because I love dual perspective, but if they read the same, then it can be very confusing. And I love the fact that Kate had this like kind of second chance romance plot line going on. I thought that was a lot of fun, and I felt like there were like many things in this web that made sense. Like Blake's love interest, there were things that I didn't expect from him that I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then it kind of added layers to the conflict. So you saw the conflict like build up over the course of the book and then finally explode. And I felt like the payoff was worth it in the end. Like, I did really like this one. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really have too much else to say about this one. I felt like, not in a negative way, I felt like it was really good, and it definitely is a book that if you're interested in reading more about like a sister relationship that's in disrepair, it's a good one to go with. Next, I read The Summer Job by Lizzy Dent. So this is also a romance technically, but I think what stood out for me more than the romance plotline was the actual transformation of the main character, which once again I need to Brady. I can never remember characters' names, I really apologize, but the main character, Brady, she's trying to figure things out. Like, she's definitely trying to figure her life out, and she ends up taking over as her friend's job. Like, her best friend got hired to be, I'm probably gonna say this wrong, I apologize, sommelier, the wine person at this Scottish estate. And she ends up taking over because then her friend like runs off somewhere else with this guy that's really bad for her, but she ends up going anyways. Birdie pretends to be her and pretends that like she knows everything about wine, but she really doesn't. And she's just kind of fake. Like, it's really one of those books that's just a ticking time bomb. You know things are going to be revealed and it's going to be horrible, but you can't like stop reading it. And I felt like I really couldn't stop reading this one because it was just so fun. Like, the characters were really engaging. I loved the setting of Scotland. I felt like I was absolutely transported there to this like small countryside estate that was very fancy but very Scottish at the same time. It was just really cool to be transported there, and just following Brady. Like, Brady was a really enjoyable character. She was really funny. Actually, after reading this book, I ended up ordering the author's other book because I just loved her writing. I felt like it really captured me and sucked me in, and I'm hoping that, I don't even know what the next book is about, but I'm hoping it's about like more characters similar to Brady that are just so fun. You can't help but love them and root for them, even though you kind of want to slap them at the same time because they're making such dumb decisions, but in the best way possible. Like, this was just a really enjoyable book, had a solid romance, a solid friendship that was, you know, a little bit tumultuous because of the decisions that Brady was making, but ultimately I think Brady's journey, all the ups and downs and everything, it really is what got me in the end. So yeah, I really liked this one too. Next is Something Wilder by Christina Lauren. So I love Christina Lauren, huge fan of this romance author duo. I have really enjoyed all of their books, although like I do have some that I like more than others, and I think this one is one of the others more so. I had really high expectations because I love them so much, and this one I think is just not my thing. I'm not really a fan of like Wild West sort of stories, and this one kind of took the ridiculousness to a level that just kind of, I was like, bleh. So this is set in Utah, and it follows a character who it's like a second chance romance sort of thing. So that's another reason I was really excited, because second chance romance or like childhood friends to lovers, those are like my ultimate. This one is more, it's actually second chance romance, not childhood friends to lovers, but because of that, I was so pumped. Like, I was like, yes, another second chance romance, like definitely going to love this one. And I was just so sad that I didn't end up really loving it. So this is about a character. Her father was like this famous treasure hunter, and he has died, and she has been using his maps that he left behind to lead these tour groups and everything. And then this tour group ends up coming that actually has her ex-boyfriend who like disappeared out of nowhere, and it ends up being for a good reason, but still he disappeared out of absolutely nowhere. So anyways, this follows a girl whose father was a famous treasure hunter, really well known. He was hunting, I forget what the actual thing is. It doesn't even say, but it's like something that I had kind of heard of. It's sort of like an American like legend sort of thing, but he has like these hand-drawn maps that he used to like lead to this treasure. It's bugging me that I can't think of what it's called. She has been using these maps to lead these tours to try and make some money because he left her with like nothing. He sold the ranch, like things just happened, and now the ranch is being sold again, but she can't afford to buy it back. But there's this tour group that ends up coming, and it ends up containing her ex-boyfriend who just like disappeared out of nowhere. So there's just some kind of like ridiculous drama that ensues from there, and like kind of from like a third of the way through, when like the big like first dramatic thing that sets off the series of events of the book happened, I was like, yeah, I didn't care for it, to be honest. The more I think about it, the more I kind of get frustrated with it, and I'm just like, like I kind of just got through it, to be honest, and it's kind of out of my mind now because it just wasn't really my favorite. It was okay. I liked the characters, like I liked Lily and Leo, but other than that, I was just like, the rest of the characters, I was like, this is dumb. So I know at the beginning there's like a note about the ridiculousness of it, but there's just certain things that like my suspension of disbelief, I can't. And this was just such a like Wild West story, and that's just not really my sort of thing. So yeah, this could have been better. I guess I shouldn't say that. Like, it's not bad, but it could have been something I enjoyed more, and it just wasn't. It wasn't for me. That being said though, there are other books like by this author duo that other people are met about that I've really enjoyed. So it is what it is. The final book that I have to talk about today is The Romantic Agenda by Kann. So this is my first adult novel by Kann, but it's not my first book by her ever. She has some YA books, and I've read one of them, and that was, oh, shoot. I can picture the cover, but I can't remember what it's called. Love, it has love in it. Oh, I don't know. Dang it. Okay, I'll put a picture of the cover on the screen, but a thing that she writes about a lot is asexual main characters, and this book was no exception. So this features an asexual main character and actually some asexual side characters as well, but it's just like this tangled web of romantic relations here. We have kind of like a love square really that's going on, and it is so complicated to explain that I'm not even going to try and explain it, but it's basically like this weekend away with this love square. We have, I guess I am going to try and explain it. We have our main character who's in love with her best friend, but her best friend is dating this other person, and that other person, her ex, goes on the vacation with her. And then the main character starts kind of having feelings for that ex, but also still has feelings for the best friend. Like, see, lots going on. There's a lot going on. But I didn't feel like it was confusing while reading it. I felt like it was actually really well done. It was a solid read. I think Kann has a kind of interesting way of writing where sometimes I don't know how to describe it, but sometimes I have to kind of like read things twice to really understand what's happening, because I think I found this with her first book that I read. She just kind of throws you right into the story. Like, you are thrown in head first, like you know what's going on, and it's kind of like you're thrown in mid-sentence is the only way I can like explain the experience. And I don't know why it's like that, but like it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just kind of like an interesting little quirk to her writing, I guess. But it does make it feel like you're kind of like being told a story among friends. It feels like you're like recounting these dramatic events at a party or something. I don't know if that really makes sense, but yeah, I felt like this was a really fun kind of like getaway story. It's at this cabin, so that was really cool. And I really enjoyed the main character, and she has this like Instagram following, and I kind of have read actually quite a few books featuring like influencer main characters recently. I don't know, I feel like that's just a thing that has been happening, and sometimes they can be a little bit ridiculous, but I felt like this one was quite enjoyable. I did really like that. Like, actually in The Beach Trap, the main character Kat, she is an influencer, and some of the things like #catwalk, I'm just like, no one actually does that. It's just kind of like a caricature of what people think an influencer is. But I felt like Kann did it really like enjoyably and realistically, and I just really enjoyed reading the relationships and how everything was working, and I had a lot of fun with this one too. So it's a little bit later in the day, but I realized I forgot a book for this video. So I also read The Worst Best Man by Mia Sosa, and I wanted to talk about it because I did really like it. I had a lot of fun with this one. It's about a wedding planner. Like, I've been reading quite a few wedding related books with both my sisters getting married this year. One of them's already married, the other one's going to be getting married shortly. But yeah, I wanted to read something wedding themed, and this definitely like fit the bill for that. And I enjoyed the main character a lot. I enjoyed all of the side characters as well, in the way that like the relationship was going. It's kind of like a hate to love, enemies to lovers sort of deal. And because I enjoyed this one so much, I did actually end up picking up her other book. So I will be reading this one shortly. So I feel like that kind of maybe gives you an idea of how I felt about this one. But I'm fighting the setting sun here, but I really did want to make sure that I mentioned this book in this video. Okay, so those are all of the romance books that I have read recently. It's been a really busy summer, and summer is like my favorite time to read romances, although I'll obviously read them year round, but I definitely do really gravitate toward them during the summertime. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have read any of these books, please let me know your thoughts on them, because I would love to know, and I will see you in another new video soon. Bye!